Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, rather, good afternoon. Uh, Sorry we are late by a minute. Let me introduce to you Miss Veerle Ponnet from the island of Tenefire, Spain. She is an academic director for Dusman study programs. She has a master's degree in applied linguistics to teaching English as a foreign language. She is a certified neuro language coach and a life coach and holds a master's degree in education and neuroscience. Her vision and expertise draw an insight from the world of neuroscience, and her programs promote a growth mindset and emphasis on empowering students to see the positive potential of growth in both themselves and others. She believes that post COVID 19 education panorama might offer a blended learning future, while digital confidence will be even more important than it is already now. Author of author of TED Talk, using the insights of neuroscience to improve teaching and learning. Let us welcome Veerle Ponnet.
Very much, Reena.
Good
Thank you very much.
afternoon.
It's a pleasure to
In
be to
fact,
be
it's morning
talking to
there.
you.
I would rather say good morning.
It is exactly. It is 10:30 here in Spain. I live on the beautiful island of Tenerife, which are right next to Africa. So we're quite far away from each other right now.
Yes, quite
But this
far
is
away.
just, as we were talking before, this is just one of the big advantages that this
Exactly.
pandemic has brought to us by being able, while staying at home, being able to connect with people from different places all over the
Exactly.
world. So thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome.
Again.
So, my usual question: what brings you into education?
What brings me
You are
into
you're
education?
the academic director at Dusman Study Programs, which is quite popular in Spain. In fact, I
Mhm.
would ask you, what brings you into academics?
So, first of all, I would say I'm probably a bit of not a typical teacher, or my way of getting into teaching is probably not the typical one, where you just like finish high school, you go to university, you study to become a teacher, and then you are a teacher. It worked kind of differently for me. I was born in Belgium, which is in just at the center of Europe. It's a tiny country, and we have three official languages. I know that in India you have several languages as well. So
Yes,
you know
yes,
how the I know how the you know how the internationality and different languages kind of open our minds in some way. So when I finished high school, I studied in Belgium. I studied my first degree in Belgium, which I didn't mention because it has nothing to do at all with what I'm doing now. But I actually started studying like business management. That was my first
oh,
first degree, and so when I finished studying, I decided that I didn't really want to go into the business world, and I started traveling, and I became a tour guide. And that's how my travel around the world started. And somewhere when I was doing this tour guiding, I lived in Mexico, I lived in the Maldives, quite near to India. I was in Sri Lanka. I was never in India. That's a place where I still have to
you
go.
should definitely
Uh,
come this time once
I
the
will.
pandemic
You just invite me,
problems
and
are
you'll
over.
see how I'll go there.
Definitely, I have invited you. You should definitely come here.
So, and somewhere, so I was living. I was working as a tour guide for about 6 or 7 years, and I already spoke those three official languages that exist in Belgium, which are Dutch, which is a language that almost nobody speaks, French and German. And then I improved my English, and I became completely bilingual. And I went to live in Spain, and I learned Spanish as well. So all of a sudden, I found myself somehow by accident speaking five languages. And people started asking me, yeah, why don't you teach me? Can you help me? I need to learn German. I need to learn French. And why don't you help me? And I was like, you know what? I don't actually know how to teach any of those languages. And how did I learn? Well, I didn't really know how to help those people because, obviously you can take a textbook and then you kind of start teaching from the textbook. And I was like, this is not working for me. That's, I just need to retrain. So then about 15 years ago, I decided that I wanted to start studying again. So I started by studying this master's degree in applied linguistics to teaching English as a foreign language, because I would say that probably my mother tongue, which is Dutch, has been replaced by English by now, because it's the language that I'm always using for work at home, privately and everywhere. So I started studying this master's degree, and then guess what? I actually started to enjoy learning. All of a sudden it was like, wait a minute, this is interesting. And what else can I learn? And what else can I do? And it was like, wait a minute, this is not enough. And yes, linguistics and blah, 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 but it's all so theoretical, and I don't really want to do it like this. So then I found something that is called neuro-language coaching. So I became a certified neuro-language coach, because, you need to to be able to learn anything, languages or whatever. To be able to learn, you need to know how the brain works, because it's what we need to learn.
Exactly.
So I became a certified neuro-language coach, and I still wanted to dig deeper. I became a life coach, and then I finished a course also or a master's degree in educational neuroscience. And then I went to Oxford and I studied an executive leadership course as well. So somehow when I bring all of that together, and that's what really helps me when I'm creating those courses that I create for Jusman study programs, where we have students from all over the world.
That's what we were discussing earlier. Last night also, and just few minutes before, we were discussing the same thing.
Exactly. So we have students that usually come to our summer camps in the UK at Easter and in summer. Now, obviously, this whole panorama has been changed because of the pandemic, because borders are closed. Nobody can start, nobody can travel. There are quarantines everywhere. So, and since, a lot of what I have been studying has been online, because I live on a small island, and the things that I have wanted to study, are not available at the university here on the island. So I have had to study all of that online, and I have had to study with the, blended learning. So I was like, wait a minute. So let me adapt those content that we have for summer school to an online environment. And obviously the experience that I have had as a student before, and because I do love technology, have helped me to create those online content.
It's because of the love for technology that today we both are talking face to face.
Exactly. And I think I have made many new friends and business contacts online. We have been talking online with many different people for, some years. And then all of a sudden, when we meet each other, after having been talking online for about 2 years, and then you meet those people and you realize that you do know them. It's like, okay, like the only difference is that like now you know this part, and then all of a sudden you know the whole body.
Exactly.
And you can kind of give a hug.
Exactly.
And you can kind of give a hug, but it is possible. It is possible. And I believe that if there is something that I hope that this pandemic will bring to us as a gift, as a present for the future, is that we will learn how to integrate those new technologies into our world, not see it like something that is them and us. Like I only do courses here at the school and you are doing online, and it's something completely different.
No. In fact, I think online after school online is going to be the new normal. That is what I'm feeling. In fact, since past couple of years, we've been doing online courses, and they are quite you can say they are quite informative. They are quite engaging. They are quite helping.
Exactly. And what I said, like a few months ago, I have two children, and I had to go to the school to talk to one of the teachers of my kids. So the teacher asked me if I could go to the school, and at that time I was still preparing the Easter programs, which I still thought were going to take place in the UK, and I was kind of overwhelmed with work, and I used to work at that school as well. So I was like, I said to this teacher, I said, I'm terribly sorry, but I can't make it. Can we just have a call, or, and because I literally can't spare like an hour and a half to go to the school, meet you, and then come back. I can spare like half an hour and talk to you by phone, or, video call. And, this teacher is not specifically, he's not very techie, let's say it like that. And he doesn't really like new technologies. So it was a bit like, you know what, you're not really a good parent, are you, if you don't want to come to school to talk about your son? I was like, no, I'm really sorry. And now, in these past few months, we have seen that all of that is possible.
Exactly.
And that made me think. I said, wait a minute. At the school where my son is studying, there's 500 students. So if all the parents have to go to the school, take the car, find a parking spot, traffic, contamination, waste of time, there's so much that we can do in such an easy way to make that has a positive impact on the environment, on our personal lives. We're not stressed anymore. I need to take the car, I need to find a parking spot, and whatever. We can easily, like, people don't have to take time off from work so that they can go to the school, because you can have a half an hour break or a 15-minute break. You can always arrange that. But sometimes
Yes,
you can't
definitely.
arrange to like go for an hour and a half. And I said, how come we did not think of this before? How come that we didn't think that we thought it was something like, bad parenting or something like that? How could
In
it
fact,
be?
now after this lockdown has started, what I have
Mhm,
started feeling is I think if some parents who are working and they cannot be present at the school's PTI or PTM, whatever we call them, or PTSA, like some of my friends
mhm.
call it, Parent Teacher Student Association. So I think this is going to be one of the most convenient way, when parents and school can get together on internet and they can discuss it out, because it's not
Exactly,
possible. Actually, what happens is, okay, if a child is having a problem, then we can definitely go and pick up the child from school, right? But
exactly.
if a school needs to discuss something with us, I think this could be one of the new normals.
Exactly. One of the new normals. And again, it's also like this blended environment, because the kids
Exactly,
are
and that
still.
is that is what today's topic for us is.
Exactly, exactly. So that is one. There are many different ways of being blended in a way. One way, it's not just the teaching or learning. The first way could be like just the contact between the school and the parents.
And parent.
Like, we are not saying that you can't come to our school to come and visit. We are not saying that we want to replace human contact, but we are saying that we want to facilitate and try and make our lives easier, or everyone's lives easier, by having a better time management, taking care of the environment, and still have that personal contact, but online, but online,
Exactly.
so that we can facilitate each other's lives. And what exactly is blended? So there are different ways of blended. I think, like as you were saying before, I have studied a lot online. I have studied a lot face to face. I have prepared online courses. I have prepared face to face courses.
Exactly.
I think like if we talk about blended, then we are talking about combining this face to face with the online, where we are bringing those together, right? Now, that means that means. Oh, am I still? It's just me now. I can't see you anymore, Rena. Is it just?
Oh,
Is it just
I'm
me?
there. I'm there. I put you on the full screen. Don't worry. I'm still there. I'm listening to you.
I was like, oops, where am I now? Okay, so as I was saying, like this is the blended courses um, are like combining the face to face with the online activities, and by mixing both of those, we are having the best of both worlds. I would say. Does blended learning exist, or did it exist before the pandemic in India already?
No,
Like,
no. I think online classes and all were not there for school children, though for college students and all they were there, but not for school children. But today, like all the kids, they are enjoying it at home. But like I feel sometimes the duration, when they are on phones and laptops is quite long. Longer
exactly,
durations, longer durations should be avoided. That's what I personally feel. We can give
exactly,
a
because
break and all that.
exactly
Like
because I
they need to
one of
take
the
their eyes off. They need to take their eyes off the screens because that's going to be quite problematic for them.
exactly, and what I think is, for example, when you are teaching or talking online, one of the biggest differences would be um, like in a classroom. When we're in a classroom, we have a project. We have a project-based learning. Kids are doing a project. We have the kids in the classroom, and we have like tiny groups of like 4, 5, 6 students or whatever. And we have these different islands in a classroom where children start working, and then the teacher just takes some time back, steps back, and then you're just like going from one table or one group to another, and you're just like monitoring and guiding, but you're not really teaching. Now, online, yes, we can use the breakout rooms, but it's not the same. And online, what's happening is that the teaching or the learning experience is much more intense. And the time, as you said, should definitely be reduced because when we are talking online now, for example, or when we're teaching online, if I just like say, I'm not saying anything, like within 10 seconds, students will be like, is my microphone not working? You know,
Exactly.
because they will automatically start like, oh, wait, I can't hear anything. Is it working? My audio is not working. Can you hear me? Because we kind of have to talk all the time. Now, that's the opposite of what we want in a classroom. We want to reduce the teacher talking time, right? We want to reduce teacher talking time. So it's very difficult, like in an online learning environment, like how are we going to manage that? How are we going to manage like what we do when we are talking all the time, but we still want to give those children autonomy
Exactly.
to do
I
some
have a
work.
question. I have a question,
Yeah.
Veerle. How would you define blended learning?
How would I define blended learning? Well, blended learning can be many different things. Blended learning can be, or a blended environment can be, as I said, first of all, it can be with the teachers, parents, right? Then it can also be teachers, students, teacher students, where we, for example, where we say it's a combination of online and face to face, which I believe is going to be the future of learning anyway. Because when we have, imagine, pandemic's over, everything goes back to normal, we've forgotten all about COVID-19, doesn't exist anymore. We are going back to life or whatever we want to call it. Now, kids are going back to school, right? Now, what do we have here? Like kids are going back to school, but are we all of a sudden going to say no to new technologies then? Are we going to forget everything that we've learned during this pandemic? Because
I
yes,
don't.
it
I don't
has
think they
been
will. I don't think they will like it. This is not going to be quite easy for them to adjust back to the normal thing because since past more than 3 months, 3 to 4 months, they've been on the same track. They've been on digital. They have in fact gained digital confidence.
Exactly. So what I want to say is like blended learning is not really an innovation. It is a natural byproduct of this digital domain that is like creeping into our physical spaces, right? It's like this is a natural evolution because we have new technologies. We've been using new technologies for quite some years now. We've just still not been able to exploit them to their full potential. So it is very likely that most of our students are subconsciously doing some blended learning. They were doing some blended learning before the pandemic already, because the teachers were asking them to do a project work, for example. They were asking them to watch a video, the flipped classroom, for example. They were asking them, like, could you watch the video at home and then we will work on it in the classroom. There are the digital tools that are available, and there are many of them, applications and websites, and that have quizzes online, new types of assessment that we were already using. I believe that, for example, we should take advantage of this blended learning and of the new technologies to go to a new type of education where we say, okay, take advantage of what we know, how we've been using technology now. We are not going to say that no more physical contact. We're not going to say that because physical contact is necessary as well. So it is necessary. So we're not going to say like, no more physical contact. Let's just do it online, everything. I think we'd lose if we do that as well. We need that physical contact as well. But let's optimize the learning experience. And let's say, for example, teenagers, we all know they hate to get up in the morning.
Exactly.
And it has been proven that their learning in the morning hours is not very effective either. So what if we just say, okay, you come to school a little bit later and you do projects, and those projects, you can do them online and you can do them in your own time. You don't need to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to school, but if you prefer to do it at 11 o'clock at night, that's fine by me. But you just need to get it done.
If I'm not wrong, I guess you too have a teenager at home.
Yes.
Same here. It's terrible, It's terrible to get him up. At times, I literally have to just shake him, get up, and then he gets up.
I know, because I know he's not listening now, but so I can say it, but don't tell anyone. So don't tell anyone. But the biggest challenge for me as a parent,
if he watches us online, he's going to both of them,
I hope not. I actually think, it's only, to be fair, it's only like 10:30 here. But he's still asleep, so he's not watching. Because he's finished his exams already, so that's okay. But the biggest challenge for me during this pandemic has been like to get him out of bed, or at least to get him to wake up and connect to his online classes. Because, teenagers, it's just like, why should I get up? And then obviously most of his classes have been, horizontally instead of sitting at his desk. I'm lucky because he has, he's a clever guy. He has no difficulties. He's got no learning difficulties or anything. So it's just like, I can do this anyway. But I'm just imagining the challenges that these are like for people that, that do have some difficulties in learning. And I know that you're a specialist at that. So there, the online would definitely need to be supported by,
in fact, they need to have one-to-one interaction with kids, who are having learning problems, because normally all the teachers and everybody, they are using Zoom classes, right? Mm-hmm. It's known as Zoom class, and where there are around the entire classes there, these kids, they feel left out.
Exactly.
And that is where, the teachers and the school and all of us, we need to bring them in one-to-one interaction, one-to-one connect. That is very important.
Well, in teaching, one of the most difficult things to do is build community. We need to build community to be able to make lessons work. Now, building community it's quite a task as it is. If you're in a classroom, to make that group stick together and make them want to work together is difficult already in a normal classroom. And that is probably one of the biggest challenges in an online learning environment. Because how can we make people connect? How can we make them feel connected in an online environment? That building community is so important in any learning, environment, and in an online learning environment, that becomes a big challenge for the teachers, right? And that's where neuro education comes in as well, which is, as we were talking before, Rena, you and I were saying the importance of emotions, the importance of the soft skills in learning. Soft skills, which are essential skills, really, because we need to be able to relate to the teacher. We need to be able to connect to the teacher. We need to be able to connect to our peers as well.
Exactly.
And how can we transmit that online? How can we transmit that online? How can we transmit that to a blended learning environment? That's a lot easier than just online.
In fact,
And that is
I would be really very happy saying I am blessed that I invited you for the show, because this is something, very, very important. We as parents and teachers need to know.
exactly because this is all whether it be blended or online, right? Okay, blended, as I said, is a lot easier. We need to express our feelings, because those feelings, even if it is through the screen, you will still feel them. You would still feel like, if I'm sitting here like this, okay, I'm talking now, and I've got my notes here, and I'm kind of reading my notes, not really interested in what I'm saying. Okay, this is just an hour that I have to talk to those people from India that invited me, whatever. I'm just not really interested. I mean, even if this is online, you still notice. You still
Exactly.
notice when people want to be there or when they don't want to be there. So that is something that we as educators, we definitely have to realize. What we do with this building community in the classroom, we are building community, and then online, we are extending that community. And
Exactly.
as I said, I believe this is going to be the future. Just remember, what was your favorite subject at school? Do
English?
you remember the teacher? Do you remember the teacher?
Yes. Yes.
Definitely. And what was the
I
subject you
remember my
most hated?
maths.
And why? Why did you hate math? Why did
because
you not like?
because after doing my sen course, I realized that somewhere I was dyscalculic,
Mm-hmm. You're
because
discouraged.
I was always very bad in calculations. Though my
Mm-hmm.
maths teacher, she is still she's watching all my shows, she's liking it, and apart from that, she always encouraged me. You can do it, you can do it, you can do it. But I was never able to do it properly.
Okay, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses, right? Now, we have our strengths and our weaknesses. Now, sometimes those weaknesses, they can be turned around into strengths just because you have a teacher that's really motivating you. Sometimes, and very often, it's not the teacher that needs to motivate you. It's you.
Who
You
needs
need
to?
to motivate yourself. That's where it comes in. You need to boost that intrinsic motivation where you actually want to learn how to do something. I have always been into literature and languages, right? Now, these last few years, I went into educational neuroscience, but I'm not a neuroscientist. Don't know anything about science. So all of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, why did I never learn this? How come I was never interested in this? This is amazing. It's exciting. But somehow nobody ever triggered that, but I never wanted to learn it. So if you never want to learn it, you won't do it, right? So that's when it becomes so obvious that you need that personal bond also with the teacher or with your peers to be able to boost that learning experience. And as I said before, like in the future, I really do hope that we will be able, for example, just imagine during this pandemic now, we've been online for way too many hours in front of our screen, right? Now, what could
Exactly.
this be for education? What could this bring to education? There are no limits. There
Exactly.
are no limits.
No
All those
limits.
projects that we have been doing inside the classroom and that we will continue to do in the classroom. We will use digital means inside the classroom. We will have this like kind of blended learning where we use the apps and where we use the websites and we use quizzes and Flipgrid and all of those tools that we have. Now, if there's one thing that this pandemic has brought to us is, it doesn't end there. We can have projects online, not just with our own school community. We can have projects online with different schools. We can have projects online with different countries. We can have projects online with different continents. We can have projects online with people of different languages. So
Exactly. This
imagine
is
how
this is
rich.
how this is how Europe and Asian subcontinent has connected.
Exactly. So this is just, the growth that we could be experiencing in education and the amount of potential that this is offering to us is, I can kind of think of it, but I can't, I honestly don't think there is any limit to it.
There is no. There is no limit.
We can start like collaborating in story writing for the little ones.
We can
We
start
can,
collaborating in storytelling. We can involve them in. We can collaborate in activities. There are so many activities. We can collaborate in debates. Like we can encourage students. Like they can do as much as we guide them to. They are still to be
exactly,
nurtured. They are to be nurtured. They are to be. They are still in the progressive stage. We can easily develop everything and they can do wonders. That's what I personally feel. But the thing is, there
exactly,
should be there should be the people who are getting involved with them. They should be like-minded and they should understand what this person is trying to do and what this person is. They need to build up a blend. They need to build up a team to do everything.
exactly, exactly. And that is where, the growth mindset comes into place as well. Because basically what growth mindset is about is like we can do anything we want as long as we want to do it. But
Exactly.
we have to want to do it, because if we don't want to do it, then it's
You
not then
cannot
it's not going to happen.
not be
And it's
possible.
not going to happen. As I said, I mean, I think that this COVID-19 pandemic is giving us great opportunities to have changes, to make changes in education, to go towards a blended learning environment where we can work together, not just like by doing project work in the school and working together with different groups within the same school. We can open it up. We can open it up to the world, really. And then
Exactly.
it's not just about what the student learns at school, about the subjects that they learn. But for example, European culture and Indian culture are very different, are
Exactly.
very different. Just imagine we are talking about, I don't know, I mean, you have your regular classes at school, English teacher, and you're talking about food, right? You're talking about food, and then okay, then you introduce the past simple, and now we are going to talk about food still, but using the past continuous, and blah blah blah. Okay, there comes a point when those students are like, oh, again, food, whatever. Just imagine that you can complete those lessons with, some online sessions with students from India. I said, okay, what did you have for breakfast this morning? I'm sure that it's very different from what people in the UK have for breakfast or what people in Russia have for breakfast. So all of a sudden, just talking about food and the past simple or whatever in English, it gets a different dimension. And all of a sudden, what we are doing is like we are giving them that extra.
In fact,
Um,
again, sorry to interrupt. I would again
yeah,
say you are also on the same lines like I am. We need to promote experiential learning because we are
exactly,
teaching grammar experientially, right? We are
exactly,
teaching grammar experientially. And that is what is the requirement right now, that is what needs to be done because post pandemic things are going to be completely different.
exactly. And as I said, I mean, this is just one stupid example. This is just one stupid example, but that is how. Just imagine, this is not just, and I know I am a dreamer. I am a dreamer. I admit. But just imagine what this
So
could
am I.
mean.
So am I. I am dreaming of making this world a completely different place for children to go grow up, to become more confident, more determined, and fight this bad world once they grow up. Because I call it a bad world. It's not that easy as it was when we grew up.
It's a wonderful world, but sometimes we are doing our very best to make it a bad world.
Yes,
So,
that's what we are trying to do. But you know what? Why I call it a bad world is because I link everything to my star kids. That's what I call them. For star
okay,
kids, the world is not easy
no.
with learning disabilities and other so many problems. It's not at all easy for them. That is
Hmm.
why I always call it a bad world. And to just make this bad world a better place for them, I started this initiative wherein I am trying to bring educationists from across the globe to share their experiences, to share how we can improve the education world
Hmm. Hmm.
worldwide.
Definitely. And what we are doing by doing like by stimulating these international contexts in, as I said, when we're going back to the classroom, let's not forget about the opportunities that this is giving us. International context. We are educating citizens of the world because
Exactly.
they're not going to just talk about in English about their food. They're going to learn about Indian culture. They are going to learn about Colombian culture. They are going to learn about different places. Now, what happens when there are wars? I hate Russians. I hate Indians. I hate French. I hate the English. Whatever. Oh, but not that one because that guy is a good guy because I know him. You never fight with people that you know, and it's
Exactly.
always like, no, but it's this one is a good one. Or, that Belgian lady, I hate Belgians, but that Belgian lady is actually, quite nice. You know, whatever. So if you know people from different cultures, hatred always comes from ignorance. It comes from ignorance. If we don't know the culture, if we don't know anything about the other culture, we don't understand it. We can't understand it because we
Ex-
don't know it. We've maybe read like one article on Wikipedia about the culture, or maybe we've
That
seen
is
one Bollywood film that was kind of giving us an image that is absolutely not true, and we think that everything is like that in India. But when you're actually starting to talk to someone, it becomes very different because I know I have a friend in India, or I have a friend in Mexico, or a friend in the UK. And then all of a sudden, the culture becomes different. And that is what this whole blended learning environment has to offer us.
that's what I was about to say. That is where
Mhm.
blended learning steps in. Okay, one more
Exactly.
question.
Yeah.
Like we've been talking about blended learning, and I would like to know what are the different types of blended learning.
Well, what the different types? I mean, we've been talking about many different types of blended learning. As I said, it can be something as easy as just like in a classroom, where you have like in the classroom, you have project work going on, you have you have project work going on, you have like an online assessment to fill out, you have peer assessment, you have to upload your assignments, group discussions, whatever. All of those are like online or blended learning. That would be like the typical blended learning environment that we have seen until now. Because it's not, as I said, it's not something new. It has been done before, just like Google Classroom. I don't know if Google Classroom is used widely in India, but that would be kind of a
Google Meets is used.
okay. So
Yeah.
that's kind of a classical blended learning environment. But what I would like for the future is to take it a lot further, take a lot further, and not just do it like the typical blended learning where we have like, as I said, like group presentation is already blended learning, because you've got like in a classroom, they are working on a project in groups, they are working together. At home, they still have to keep working. Probably they're sharing it just like by email or whatever. That is already blended learning, but that's the most classical
So
way of blended learning.
in a way, we can say that blended learning has been in for quite some time. It's
It
not
has
new.
been. No,
It's
it's
not
not new.
now. Pandemic has since pandemic has this pandemic has been there. We have started thinking that this is a new thing that is coming up, whereas it
No,
was already lying there.
it was already there, but this pandemic is giving us the possibility to take it to a different dimension. That's what this pandemic is doing, because all of a sudden, because not all teachers were very keen on using technology in the classroom. And now all of a sudden, even those teachers that were absolutely like not technologically trained at all,
In
they
fact,
have had to take, they
not
have had to
even
do a
not
minimum.
exactly, not even they didn't even take a fortnight. They didn't take a fortnight. Within like 2 3 days, they were online.
Exactly. And what I have seen during this pandemic as well is that in the teaching community, there has been tremendous show of solidarity. It's been amazing. It's been amazing how many teachers have been sharing their resources, how many teachers that are technologically prepared have been offering their knowledge and helping those teachers that were not technologically prepared to take their classes online. There has been so much solidarity in the education world that it's been beautiful to see. It's been really heartwarming to see what's been happening in
In
the
fact,
education world.
I think this is for the first time that the entire teaching fraternity across the globe have come together for the betterment of children.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. This is yes, we have already also seen some of the bad side of people, like a bit of hatred, a bit of racism, like because the virus came from China, or because those people, we don't want them to enter in Spain because because there's a lot of pandemic here and we don't have any here, whatever. There's been those things as well. But as I said, I'm a dreamer, I'm an optimist. I will always stick to the positive side of things. So anyway, that's the way I am, and that's what I believe in. As I said, I don't have the absolute truth. I do believe in what I'm doing. I do believe that by integrating this blended learning, taking it to a different level, integrating it also with neuroeducation, making sure that we understand the importance of emotions and motivation in the learning environment, um, the sky's the limit, really.
Exactly.
So
And like
the sky,
after listening to your views, I think post pandemic, neuroeducation is going to be something that every teacher is going to look for. I
exactly.
think because the kids, they are confined in the four walls of their house and they cannot move out. parents don't let them move out. There have
Mhm.
been an instance when I was talking to one of my friends, and they were saying that since past 3.5 months, the boys have not moved out of the house.
Mhm. Mhm.
They've not moved out, and they're not interested either in moving out because they say if we go out, we might catch the virus.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes,
Because
fear is definitely something big.
yes, fear is there. Like what I can feel is there is fear all around, and the kids are more like they're getting more badly affected by this fear. And
Mhm.
the parents, even after being educated and knowing things, they are not able to somehow counsel them that no, this is not going to stay there for long.
Mm. Yeah. Exactly. Now, when I was
And moreover, there are so many news bombardments, whole day news on COVID 19, whole day. There is nothing interesting going on, the kids get involved in that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we have to shift the focus as well. Like when I was like last September, when I was invited to go to the TEDx event in Brazil, it seemed like a lifetime ago now, but it was actually only in September. I thought about it, and I was like, you know what? It's in Brazil. I mean, Brazil is not actually around the corner. So should I go there? Should I do it? Yes, no. So thinking about it, and then I was like, you know what? As I said, I do believe that we have to use what we know about the neuroscience. We have to use what we know, what research has shown us to try and improve education. And I have a deeper insight of that. And I'm like, and if I can promote that to happen, if I can just like give my view of what are my beliefs and how we can use it, and I can spread it to the world, and that helps people, then then
I don't know
that would make me really happy. That would
exactly.
make, and that was the reason why I decided in the end to go there and to do the talk. Um, but that is for me, definitely that is the future of education, or at least the future that I envision for education. So I don't know if you have any questions popping up in the chat boxes, Rena, or
Uh, no, there are not questions, but yes, there are some experiences that people have
mm-hmm,
shared. Gurleen says, I too couldn't take maths, maybe a phobia because of the teacher who couldn't reach out to communicate maths in a way which made it comfortable to make maths interesting. Though later
mm-hmm,
on, I was great in economics and statistics. So our ways of learning has to be able to connect to ourselves.
exactly,
Then
exactly.
she further says psychological aspects were to be handled, and she did
Mm-hmm.
better later on.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Now, now
this
Shalvi
is
Tyagi says one more thing. She says that the current pandemic has really changed older perceptions. Scenarios have changed. New ways need to be implemented.
exactly, exactly. It is offering us that possibility, and I think, as I said before, like um, when I first, one of the reasons actually when I started, and I didn't mention this before, when I started getting into education, and I was doing like my first courses, I was doing teacher training courses, and I was like, as I said, I was never very good at maths or science or anything, and then, so when I
So
was
both
doing
of
these,
us are in the same boat. Both of
yeah.
us are nearly in the same boat.
So I was like, you know what? I started asking the teachers, the math teachers and the physics and chemistry teachers, like, why the hell did you start studying? Why the hell? How the hell did you decide to study maths or become a chemistry teacher? And then I realized that so many of them said, well, I had this great teacher that really motivated me and that showed me the love for numbers, and it was so often. And that's when I started realizing what the importance of emotion was in education. And then it was like, yeah, actually, when you think about it, as teachers, we are so important in our students' lives. We can actually create a future for them, But we have to be very careful because we can also destroy it for them. That's why we have to be so careful, because, you know, if a teacher in a classroom says and repeats 1,000 times that the earth is flat, that child will go home, and even if their dad's a super physician, even if their dad is Albert Einstein, they will end up trusting us. You know, they will believe us because they're with us in the classroom for so many hours a day, and we are their reference for them. You know, and they will believe us. They will believe us. So what we have to do is, like, we have that possibility of encouraging them to a bright future. But if we are doing it wrong, then we can also drag them downwards. So that's why I think the teaching profession, and that's basically, for me, that has probably been one of the main reasons why I decided to shift from, you know, the business world and the tourist world to education, is because I saw that, you know what, I'm actually not, I am working for a company, but what I am giving to the students is for their personal growth. I'm contributing to their personal richness, not with money, but with knowledge, which is a treasure for everyone, because no one can ever take that away from us. When we learn something, we might forget it. It might go to the back of our minds, but will always come back to us. So, and I think that's probably what I would like to say to finish, to make sure that everybody understands that this whole education, whether it be online, whether it be face-to-face or blended, it's in our hands to make it work. And we can build that community. And yes, use whatever tools we have that are available to us to make it more interesting, to make it grow beyond those borders, to take it worldwide, and to say, like, you know what, yes, the sky is the limit, because we decide that this is the limit, and we decide that's what we can do for everyone. So
great. Like, I don't feel like questions, you know, the question pops up in my mind and you already answer it. I don't you like, I'm about to ask a question and the answer is already out.
I am sorry. I need to work on letting other people talk as well. That's my lesson.
No. That's not the thing. I think it's a telepathy that we both are sharing. I guess you are somewhere in the back of the mind, or somehow you're figuring out what I want to ask, and you just keep on answering them. It could be that also.
No, brilliant. Okay. I would like to say, like, to everyone, if you want to, as you have seen, my Facebook site is not, it's not, I don't post anything about my holidays, about my kids. Everything is related to teaching and to education and to neuroscience. So if you'd like to connect, feel free to. I'm also on LinkedIn. And whatever questions anyone might have, even if you're not thinking of them right now, feel free to ask me. I always say, I cannot promise that I will have the answer to all your questions. I can promise that I will try and find the answer to your question, or at least I will give you my version.
Great. My last question.
Yeah.
What are the advantages and disadvantages of online and blended learning?
Advantages and disadvantages. I think we've almost kind of covered that, but I'd say advantages of online learning is definitely what I was saying. The world is at our feet. We can connect to anyone. We only have to, arrange time zones a bit and things like that. So that would be one of the disadvantages, probably, if we take it worldwide. Advantages, there are many to them. We need to have an internet connection, but we can connect to anyone, anywhere in the world. There is no limit to the type of knowledge, everything can be done. Basically, we have to adapt it. Obviously, disadvantage is that, yes, it is more complicated to build community. It is more complicated, and is building community or bringing emotion into learning will be a lot easier when you're face to face, which does not mean that it is impossible online. So I think we have to learn to take the best of both worlds and bring those
Exactly.
together. Yeah.
Thank you
So
so much for taking out time from your very, very busy schedule.
that's
I'll catch
okay.
up later with you. I'll catch up later with you, and we'll definitely discuss few things.
Okay.
I think
Brilliant.
you're getting late for your next meeting as well.
Yeah. I have
Okay.
a meeting coming up, because otherwise, as you might have noticed, I could go on talking forever, which
Yeah,
I will
that's what
not
we
do.
were discussing. That's what we were discussing last night also.
So that's my disadvantage. So, but it
Ma'am,
was beautiful.
I have a question just popped up. What are the
Yeah.
four models of blended learning? This
What are
is
the
four models of blended learning. This is Mrs. Sudha Subramaniam from Mumbai. She's asked this question.
Well, I'm not aware of having four forms of blended learning. I know that there are different models that talk about different ways of blended learning. There are up to 12 different ways of blended learning that they talk about, really. There's an
Okay.
interesting post on a website. Let me see if I can find it. Um, there's an interesting post on a website. Wait, let me just try and find it. That gives you I'm trying to find it as I'm talking.
And further, she's asking, is it suitable for preschoolers?
For preschoolers, it will be more complicated. Like anything online, definitely. Anything online will be more complicated for preschoolers. It's not impossible. You would have to reduce the time. You would probably have to keep it up to like 15-minute sessions or something, 15 to 20 minutes, just song, use finger puppets, to make it interesting. Definitely not 45-minute sessions. That's too much. It is possible, but it is a lot more complicated. And obviously, preschoolers, you have the big disadvantage that there has to be an adult that is actually right next to them, at least to connect in the first from the first time. Now I'm okay. When you have, I will. Can I? Okay, the definition of blended learning.
You can
Okay,
mail it to me. I'll forward it to her.
I can put it here in the chat box. Would you receive it?
Yeah,
Oh, wait.
you can put it in the chat box. You can put it in the chat box.
Okay. Yeah, okay, sending it. This is an interesting article on the website, the Teach Thought website, that talks about blended learning. And as you will see right there, they are talking about, I think it's 12, if I'm right.
Yeah.
Definition of, oh no, this is another one. Yeah, I mean, and I will send, because there's another one as well. And they talk about up to 12 different forms of blended learning. So it's basically anything that integrates technology, and face-to-face learning. So there are many different ways of doing that.
So that is the difference between online and blended learning, right?
Blended is that, yes, definitely. The main definition of blended is that you have face-to-face on the one hand, and you have online on the other side. When you
If
have
you have
both,
time, if you have time in the coming week, I think we can take another session on this. What do you say?
I'll have to check.
You can
I'll
no,
have to
that's
check
what I
what.
think. Because there
Yeah.
are many questions, which people would like to ask you. I think we can continue with part two once you check your schedule and inform me. I
Okay.
think that can be
Okay.
done.
Let's see if we can organize, and I'd be delighted, obviously. Okay. I will have to disconnect now, because I have
Even I,
something to prepare before the next.
was just about to.
Ter-
Uh,
Terribly sorry. I'm terribly sorry.
this is
As I said
namaste. We
before,
call it namaste.
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 Namaste. Thank you for inviting me, and we will talk again
You're most
soon.
welcome. You're
Thank
most
you,
welcome.
Rina. Thank you, everyone, for listening and for joining in. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye
Bye.
bye. So here we end our session with Veerle Ponnet. She is an amazing human being and a very, very good soul. Okay, tomorrow we have Dr. Radha Singh, who will be giving us insight into the mental wellness for parents, teachers, and students during COVID 19. Tomorrow we will be logging in at 3 p.m. same time. See you tomorrow. Bye bye.